So let's get started. I'm going to be using a range of pastel materials, soft pastel sticks, PanPastels of course, and my pastel pencils. The paper of choice today is the Winsor & Newton pastel paper. This paper comes in a pad of 24 sheets and it's called greys, but it does have varying shades of earthy tones and black. I was really excited to start this drawing. It's my first portrait in a while and I'm excited to see how it turns out. The eyes are always a great place to start when you begin a portrait. It gives a good focal point, pardon the pun. Pastel pencils are your go-to tool when it comes to fine details such as the eyes and the lips, and strands of hair. Now, I've had my pastel sticks for years and I'm not entirely sure why this happens. Look at this. It's really brittle. Now, some pigments are much more brittle than others, but I think it's a good idea to try out your pastel sticks on a separate piece of paper before you attempt it on your finished drawings. But no worries here. We'll simply take it outside and shake it off. A little smoothing with an applicator and I think we're good to go. So this new PanPastel palette is designed especially for creating skin tones when you do portraits. Now, I also purchased this set because the colours are beautiful and vibrant and I wanted some colours that I could also use if I did nature scenes and flowers without having to mix the colours. But this has a second purpose. When you have skin tones, it's really important to create a base for the colours to pop. Now, if I go in really close, I don't know if you can see it, but this, especially the beige one, has a bit of sparkle. And can you imagine when you do your drawings, that little sparkle is going to add a little bit of magic. And I don't necessarily want to have to mix the colours. I want a bit of consistency. So these oranges and yellows and this beigey colour are perfect to add a little bit of vibrance to my skin tones. This palette is called Leah Griffith Designer Kit. I'll put all the new materials that I'm using in the description below. Once I've got my base colours down, I can start adding more colours and blend them all together. As I go along, I'm going to lay layers upon layers on top of each other. But remember, do not lay the pigment on too thickly because if you do, the paper will not be able to hold the colour. You've probably heard this 100 times before, but it is very important. Now, hands are always tricky for the best of us. I've blocked them in and I actually considered not putting them in the portrait, but seeing as they play a crucial role, they are holding the sunglasses, I decided to leave them in. I'm not going to place too much emphasis on the hand as we're going to focus mainly on the face. Instead of using a flat black for the sunglasses, I'm building it up with some dark browns and later on with some touches of green and then a touch of black for some emphasis. Creating hair can be a bit of a challenge, but with a bit of practice you can get some really good results. First, I lay down some flat colours, and as I build up the colour, I'm preparing to add some details with my pastel pencils. When I'm working on a pastel drawing, I tend to alternate between my soft pastels, my pastel sticks and my pastel pencils. I make sure that I don't press too hard with any of them because I want to leave enough grain so I can build up lots of layers. A soft beige pastel stick is great for adding highlights. When working on a pastel drawing, it is important to start from top to bottom in order to avoid smudges. I'm placing shadows with a brown pencil and just blending it in with my fingers. A pastel pencil comes in really handy for creating more highlights and more definitions in your drawings. The way I normally work on a drawing is to block in all the colours and then do the details on top, as opposed to completing one section at a time. Let me know how you work. Do you work on one section at a time and pretty much complete it and then move on to the next? Or do you block in the whole drawing? Let me know your workflow in the comments below. Going to start on the dress by blocking in a few creases and shadows. That way I don't lose those details when I fill in the overall colour. That done, now let's block in lots of lovely lilac. Now let's blend the colours in a little. As you can see, I pretty much employ every means of blending when I do my artwork. Fingers, applicators, pastel pencils, the works. I often like to do the background first, but you know what? There's no hard and fast rule. Okay, I'm using my trusty PanPastel white. You can see how well used this particular palette is. As I said, white is a colour that you're going to use a lot when you use pastels. You'll be using it quite often in backgrounds and for mixing. Okay, I like what I have so far. Time for some fixative. Now for a touch of yellow and orange in her dress, just to bring the whole drawing together. Time to work on those hands. My pastel pencils are perfect for this kind of detail. A light brown and a yellow seems to be doing the trick. Now, I worked on this portrait for a day or two. Sometimes when you have to make lots of decisions, it's best to leave the drawing alone and come back with fresh eyes. I just love the way the colours pop on the paper. I definitely give the Winsor & Newton pastel paper the thumbs up. Wishing you so much love and happy creating. Peace.